not realizing it.
So maybe this is a good time to shift over to the topic of governance. And you talked about the tool Field Trip. One exercise that I think is a really healthy thing to do is to use a tool. There's one called Schema Lister, and I think Kyle put the URL to the Cloud Toolkit, cloudtoolkit.co. What you can do, there are probably about 10 tools on that site, but one tool in particular is called Schema Lister. We can export, create an Excel file. Each object is a tab, and it lists all the fields, the data types, the pick list values, et cetera. And what we might do is create a data dictionary. And my suggestion would be to not try to boil the ocean and do it for every object. But if you just did that for leads, accounts, contacts, opportunities, and set that as the goal to try to define, and a few columns you might add with that: who owns the field? Is the field in use? Is there some action, some notes? Like maybe we could use this field if we updated the values to what maps to NetSuite or something like that. But oftentimes you realize that nobody owns the field. In fact, it was the CRO who left 4 years ago, and she had a methodology she wanted, but nobody's using it anymore. But the fields are still they're still there wasting space. So that Schema Lister, I think, is a nice tool. What other governance topics do you have in mind, MJ?
I've got a couple, but I want to go back to something like a Schema Lister. We had occasion to use something like that. We actually used, I think, Field Trip instead. I could be wrong, but we had somebody who left a company that they had been at for years and years. And the concern was that they might have formula fields, they might have validation rules that specifically mention this user by name.
Yeah.
Because the user's mentioned by name, it's not something that's going to pop up as something that would be active if the user, or would be impacted if the user is deleted. But we had to have an easy way to scan all of the formulas, all of the validation rules for really every object in their org to find this person's name. And having a data dictionary that we know how to maintain that has even things like formula definitions and validation rule definitions was absolutely key to being able to do that. And yeah, all of that falls under the category of governance. Another one that is interesting to talk about when we're talking about governance is enhancement management.